All right, we back up live. Alhamdulillah. You can share it. Inshallah. Let me share it on my page. Just don't move that.
MashaAllah, we're back. I hate technical difficulties.
I know.
Especially when you don't know where it's coming from. Stuff just stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Now I gotta share this all over again. MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
Okay. Let's see here. Alhamdulillah. You can't but so no, she said shaking my head. You can't depend on technical difficulty 100%. Technical difficulty. You can't you can't depend on this because technical difficulty is inevitable. Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. What was I saying?
I don't know what you were saying.
Oh man, we was talking about diaries and benefiting.
We was talking about the marriage. I was talking about the marriage, upcoming marriage, and I was just saying that our youth are challenged during these days and time, you know, with all this fitna. You know, our children are made to be confused about who they are when Allah doesn't make mistakes about who He created. Wa alaikum salam to barakatuh, Sister Mary. Oh yeah, I was saying something. Thank you, Fatima. You know, they're being, you know, bombarded with all this nonsense when Allah has made it clear about who we are as people, as human beings, as far as gender-wise and how we should think regarding our gender. If you hold certain genitals, that's what you are. You're not different than that. Allah didn't make mistakes. And so our children... beautiful.
She hear your accents clashing too, right?
You know what? I'm gonna see you, sis. I'm gonna get you. But anyway, so you know when our children.
When you said beautiful,
just, I'm
was that North Carolina and New York, or was that North Carolina and Philly? Beautiful. Or was that New York and Pittsburgh, or was it three like accents together?
It was three of them together. Anyway, I'm trying to talk. So when our children, let's encourage our children to do the right thing. You know, it's so easy for them to be out here committing zina at their age. Like they don't have the self-control at their age. You know, sometimes they are, you know, put in situations where they feel like they got to do certain things just because. And so we got to make sure we give them avenues. Like if you want to go this route, if you want to, you know, hook up, you know, with a sister, or you want to hook up with a brother, let's not discourage them. Of course, you want to encourage them to finish school and, you know, get themselves together. But, you know, be there for them. Be there confident because they're going elsewhere for information, you know, for a shoulder to, you know, cry on. And if we're not that shoulder, we don't provide that shoulder for them, we are setting them up, you know, for a downfall. We're going to be sabotaging their, you know, their future. Because think about everything that's going on right now. How is the family unit is going, you know, going to look 20 years from now? Mm-hmm. As the way things are going right now. You got boys wanting to wear dresses and skirts and want to be with other males, and our girls want to dress like dudes and want to be with other females, and females that are feminine want to be with a masculine, female. What is our family structure going to look like 20 years from now?
Men wanting to have sex with dolls.
And baby dolls.
Women wanting to have sex with dolls.
And baby dolls,
and
right?
And they even got, dolls designed for pedophiles.
SubhanAllah. So what is this, the community, the family is the nucleus. That's the center. What is that going to look like from 20 years from now? That's a scary thing to think about, but it's the reality. And, a lot of Muslims don't want to talk about this because this is their child we're speaking about. This may be their parent that we're speaking about. This may be a cousin, someone close to them, best friend. And this is like a really touchy situation, and we don't like to ruffle any feathers. We don't want to say the wrong things or anything like that. But you had, right, sis, it's a mess. And nobody want to talk about it. But we have to speak about this because we're going to be questioned about how did we approach this fitna. Okay? How did we approach it? How did we dealt with it? What was in your heart at the time that it was going on? Was you just going along with it? Did you have the attitude, well, that's not me. That's not my business. I ain't got nothing to do with it. You have everything to do with it. Okay? So, it's crazy. Yes, Farouk, you can type your questions while we're speaking. So I encourage you as parents of young men and women, even our young children, you got to think about their future. Who are they going to marry? Do you have a community where, you have families that are close and say, well, when they get old enough, I would like to marry my daughter off to your son, or your son, if you have a son, sister, a family that have a daughter that you're looking to like marry him off. Like, this is the reality. We want them to get married. It's not natural not to get married. You have the choice to be like that, but it's best to be married. That's the sunnah. That's the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
I got a question for you. When did you take Shahada? How old were you?
How old was I?
Yeah.
Okay. You read that question, I'll answer that.
No, answer my question.
I took Shahada in 97. So when I met you, I was a new Shahada.
All right. How old were you?
I was, subhanAllah. Let me think. You're just going to put my business out there.
I got questions for you. You ain't ready for me.
I was in my 20s.
If you don't, any question I ask you, if you don't feel comfortable answering them, you don't have to answer.
Okay. I was in my 20s, early 20s.
Mm-hmm. You was in your early 20s?
Yeah, I was in my early 20s.
You don't remember exactly, like, what, 21, 22?
I do remember. Okay. I just say
early 20s. Oh, you don't want to say it?
I don't want to say it.
Oh,
early
okay.
20s.
Alhamdulillah.
So, yeah. So, they probably said, oh, she's knocking on that F 40 door. Yep, maybe not.
I ain't gonna say nothing.
You better not.
I'm not gonna say nothing.
You better not.
I'm not gonna say nothing with an F. Nothing. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
What made you take Shahada? Like, what was in your mind at the time?
At the time, at the time, I was previously, been knocking. You so crazy.
That's your daughter.
Well, I used to go to church. I used to belong to a Baptist church.
Baptist church?
A Baptist church, yes.
Was you in the choir?
I was on the choir.
For real?
Yes, I was a soprano.
Was you a lead singer?
I was a lead singer on some of the songs, yes. That was my motivation to go to church, by the way. It wasn't the Aqidah. It wasn't the sermon. It wasn't the Bible. It was none of that. I just was able to do what I love, and that was sing. So that's what motivated me to church. Go to church.
You was trying to knock on heaven's door?
I don't know about all that, but yeah. So because I was doing that.
Let me ask you a question.
I didn't finish my question.
Because you say you used to go to church.
Uh-huh.
Was it like an active every Sunday school type of church, or a special occasion type of church goer you were?
I would go when it was time to sing. So sometimes
every Sunday?
every Sunday we might had she said word. We would go to different churches to sing, be a guest choir. We had an annual anniversary that we used to show out every year. So it was fairly active. So we did different things. I was also part of a choir outside of the church. It was a gospel choir. And I used to sing with this group. I forgot the name of the group and what, who led it, but yeah, so that was my motivation. That's what I was doing at the time. That was years ago. But as time went on, I stopped going. Yeah, I stopped going. And so when I stopped going, I just felt like I wasn't safe. I had this sense of that God existed, like one God. I didn't believe in the Trinity, even though I went to Baptist church. And if you know about the Baptist church, you had to be baptized in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And I was baptized, but I didn't believe in that. I just knew.
Where you got baptized?
Where?
No, I said, oh, you got baptized.
Yeah, I got baptized, yes. But I didn't believe in that. I knew that there was a higher power. I knew that there was one God. And so when I stopped going to church, I was afraid to die at that moment. I started thinking about death. And I just knew that, I didn't know, but I just had this feeling. If I was to die right now, what would happen to me? Like, what would happen to my soul? And I was afraid to find out the answer because I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't doing any worship whatsoever.
That's interesting because being that me and you've been together all these years, I wasn't that type of Christian. Like, I went, when I was very young, my parents used to go to church every Sunday. I went with them. But, like, none of us was involved in the church like that.
Okay.
I can't remember when I got a little older. I don't even think I was a teenager yet, or even a preteen. I don't remember how old I was. But my father gave me the option of going to church or staying home. And I wanted to stay home.
Of course.
And then he said, okay, but if you don't go to church, you can't go outside and play later. I like, cool. Like, I mean, that was worth it. I was about to say alhamdulillah, right? Right. But, I didn't have a problem with that.
Right.
I just never felt it. One time, I can remember going to church and my father was not there. It was just me and my mom's went. We went to Universal Temple. It was on Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn.
I think I've been to that one.
Yeah.
That was a big church, right?
I remember the Reverend's name. His name was Reverend Penn. He was having a Jerry curl, and he drove a Cadillac. Right? But anyway.
Oh, I was going to say something, but anyway, go ahead.
But anyway, I can remember, because my father wasn't there, I can remember cutting up in church a little bit. And that was when churches was only taking like 2 or 3 offerings. So I remember just acting, just not going buck wild, but just, I was loose because my father wasn't there. And I picked up one of the Bibles that was in front of me, and I started reading just from the beginning. Reading from Genesis. And I'm reading it, and I lifted my head up, and I just remember the preacher saying, and now we're going to take an offering. Right? And then I put down, read some more. And then it seemed like he almost came right back. In my mind, I was zoned out into the Bible.
Right.
And now we're going to take an offering. Another one? I said it out loud, right? Another one? And then he said, you young man, you're going to have to pay twice. And the little old lady started passing me money, like, oh, whatever. I said, Mommy, can I keep it? She's like, no, boy. And then I can remember, because now I'm reading Genesis.
Right.
So, Mommy, who's God? She said, boy, be quiet. Jesus. I said, okay. Well, who's the son of God? Because you read the beginning of Genesis, and don't talk nothing about that. It's talking about the beginning of man and creation and stuff like that, right? So I'm like, well, who's the son of God?
Right.
Shh, Jesus. Right? So I'm okay. You said God was Jesus. The son of God was Jesus, right? Then I'm like, well, what's the Holy Spirit? Shh, be quiet, Moses. She had a Christian IQ. Okay, so Jesus is God. He's the Son of God, but Moses is the Holy Spirit. She had all that stuff. She tried to tell me to be quiet. I always remember that.
But she trying to hush you.
But other than that, we would go to church, like when we went down south to visit our family once a year for homecoming. So when I got older, I didn't go to church at all. And when I say older, like teenager, and once a year thing.
Right.
So I'm just tripping how you was into it like that. And me, I wasn't into it.
No, I wasn't into it. I even faked catching the Holy Ghost one time.
You did? You foul. You faked the Holy Ghost? What did you do? Describe it.
I don't know exactly what I did.
No, you know what you did. You know what you did.
No,
your daughters are watching. Tell them what you did.
I'm not trying to make fun of anybody's beliefs or anything. I'm just saying what I experienced. I started shaking, and then I act like I passed out.
You did all that?
Yeah, I did that.
How old were you?
I probably was like, I don't know, old enough to know better.
Were you 16?
No, I was older. I might have been like 19, 20, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I faked it out, and I was like, had my eyes like kind of squint, so I felt them carry me out the choir stand and brought me downstairs to, to cool me off, to wake me up and things like that. I'm a mess, right?
Sharnice said that's what was scared of. Yeah.
Yeah, so, people used to have their little, they used to have the talking in tongues and all that stuff. So I said, let me, I never felt it. I wasn't into it like that. So, yeah, I faked it one time. I would have been like, I should be whipped for that. But, anyways.
Yeah.
It's funny because when I was in the choir,
your daughter said, I'm just thinking of your face when you did that.
Yeah. But what's so funny, the way the law works, subhanAllah, one of the girls in the choir took Shahada. She became Muslim. And this was like in the peak of me going to church. Even though I wasn't really into it, but I was in it enough. And so I don't know how the news got back to me that she took Shahada, that she became Muslim. I had the nerve to say, what's wrong with her? Why is she doing that? I had all this, I had all these things to say about her, and didn't know that she was making the best decision in her life. I didn't understand that at that time. So I'm not sure how long after that I took my Shahada, but who the first person I wanted to run to once I made that decision, just to kind of speed up a little bit. That same sister.
It's always like that.
Because when I went to go take my Shahada, she was the first person. I said, I gotta talk to her. I gotta tell her what I did. I wanted to tell her that, but that's another story. So let's just go back. I don't want to go forward. That's like way forward, but go back to the church. When I was in church, well, like I said, I stopped going to church. I don't know what made me stop, but I eventually just didn't do anything. No worship of anything.
Right.
But I had this fear. And one thing that I had fear of most was lightning. Thunder and lightning.
Because that's that, again, you spent a lot of time in North Carolina. Now, all my brothers and sisters listening, especially if you black and you got peoples down south, you know what the drill was when it started thunder and lightning. Cut off anything electric, unplug everything, and shut up.
Sit down, be quiet.
Nothing. The Lord is angry. Right?
Or moving some furniture, right? Moving furniture out there. Yep. And it was like that when I went to my grandmother's house. 7 o'clock it would seem like it was clockwork. Around 7 p.m., them clouds started rolling in. And that whole scene, you will see that. Everybody quiet, lights off, be quiet, and things like that. So, I had this, it was fear that I was just scared to death that I'm going to die type thing. Every time it lightning, thunder and lightning. Right. It was just a greatness. I don't know, I can't describe it, but I just was like, it was just crazy.
Don't mind me, man.
So, I'm not Muslim at the time.
Why are you paying attention?
I'm sorry. I'm not Muslim at the time, but actually the person that pointed me toward that way to Islam was an ex-boyfriend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And he was Muslim.
Boyfriends are haram.
I know they're haram. I said I wasn't
so why
Muslim
you had
at
a
the
boyfriend?
time. I was
I'm messing with you. Go ahead.
I didn't know he was Muslim, but it was something different about him. And I know this is like years later. I don't know how y'all brothers do when y'all be messing with non-Muslim women.
Catholic chicks.
Yeah.
You was a Catholic chick.
Yeah, I was a Catholic
You
chick.
was one of those Catholic chicks that the Muslims talk about. Your brothers sleeping around with these Catholic chicks and you got all these Muslims. You was the Catholic chick.
How you know?
Because you just said so.
Put my business out here. I don't mind. But anyway, he was doing some strange things. One strange thing that I noticed was that he was making salat. I didn't know what salat was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Even though when I grew up, when I was a youngin', I lived next to Muslims. And every time salat time came, I didn't know what this was. The children of the household, their parents used to yell out to them because they used to be outside. It's like, it's time for salat. Come in and make salat. I thought it was some type of dish that you eat. I thought that was the food that Muslims ate, salat. Because they was like, let's make salat. Come on, let's make salat, right? Mm-hmm. So they used to do this like all day long, 5 times a day.
Wow.
But he was making these movements, and it was just strange. So I asked him, what are you doing? And he said, I'm praying.
Mm.
I said, oh, okay. I don't know the conversation, what we were saying, but basically he said, I'm Muslim. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, tell me about it. He's like, no, you need to talk to a sister. He didn't say any particular sister. He didn't say, I know a sister. He said, you just need to talk to a sister.
Mm-hmm.
Because it piqued my interest. At this time, he was just telling me the basic. And I believe he was telling me there's one God. And that kind of like,
The salat is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
The salat, seeing the salat,
Mm-hmm.
we take it for granted as Muslims, a lot of us,
Mm-hmm.
but seeing the salat is powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, right before I took Shahada, I was saying I was Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not about me today, it's about you, but you already know the story.
Mm-hmm.
But I was saying I was Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
And so a real Muslim came to me and was like, you Muslim? And I like, yeah. And he was like, Salaam alaikum. I like, yeah, peace. Like, I didn't know how to say wa alaikum salam.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he was like, when I said peace, he had a strange look, like, okay. then he said, you make salat? I said, make some what?
Right.
He said, do you make salat? I said, make some what? He said, do you pray? I said, yeah, I pray all the time. At that point, he ascertained that I was not Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
And so and this is important, and this is what I'm learning more and more every day.
Mm-hmm.
He gave me dawah and he gave me instructions.
Mm.
He broke down the 5 pillars to me, explained it. He said, well, a Muslim is one who believes in Allah, and I don't remember his exact words, but then he broke down the 5 pillars to me. He said, the salat, is our prayer that we do, and we say certain things. And he mentioned a couple of things. I'm assuming it was the Fatiha or something else. And this happened in jail. It was in Queen's house. So, and he was like, ain't too many Muslims here. Listen, most likely when you leave here, you're going to be going to Rikers Island. And so when you get there, get with the Muslims there. And that's exactly what I did, and that's how I took Shahada. But it was the conversation about Salat that was the door opener for him to give me dawah and instructions.
Alhamdulillah.
So, yeah, alhamdulillah.
And you have Muslims now, they don't even want to make salat. They're too lazy to make salat.
Yeah.
I had friends who felt like you did. They was like, what y'all be doing?
Yeah.
Right. So he directed me to a sister. So in my mind, I'm like, I need to do something.
Right.
Because like I said, I was fearing death. I didn't want to die in that state. That was how my heart was set up. I didn't want to die in that state. And so I made a dua. I didn't know it was called dua at the time, but I made a sincere dua. I said, God, show me the way. Whatever way you show me, I'll take it. And I was sincere. I said, whatever it is, because I can't stay like this. So, alhamdulillah, if you know, I'm from Bed-Stuy. And I was on the A train at Nostrand Avenue. I was going somewhere. And Allah had this sister there waiting for me. She had on all black. She had niqab on, khimar. She was fully covered. And normally I would have been like intimidated to approach her. But because I was on a mission and my boyfriend at the time said, you need to talk to a sister, I walked up to her.
So at that time you was consciously on a mission at that time?
At that time, yes. Yes, because he didn't direct me to any particular. He just said, you need to speak to a sister.
Okay.
Right? So I walked up to her. And it's funny, it reminded me of the hadith of Jibril. What did Jibril ask the Prophet ﷺ?
What is Islam?
What is Islam? That was similar to the question that I asked the sister. Tell me about Islam. And so from that day on, we developed a friendship. We exchanged numbers and things like that. She introduced me to other sisters. Was
that sister the same sister was part of your crew?
Right.
That you was with when I met you?
Right, okay. Right. And so, I love them to death to this day. And that was years ago. So they was putting the fear of Allah in me at that time.
Alhamdulillah. How?
Well, they were saying, well, if you die like that in that state, you going to hell. They was just like, they didn't hold back anything.
They wasn't trying to be politically correct.
Right. No, they was like, you need to take your shahada. And while they were giving me dawah, they used to listen to some tapes. Guess what tapes they were listening to?
What? Who?
They were listening to Imam Siraj and your tapes.
MashaAllah.
Your tapes.
I don't think you ever told me that.
Yeah, I did tell you.
No, you told me that you would listen after you took Shahada. You were listening to my tapes. You told me that story. You never told me that they had my tapes.
Your tapes was there, and at the time I didn't know who Naeem was. I didn't go to the masjid or anything, and I'm like, who is this brother? He sound kind of good. I would have been like, see, I wasn't Muslim yet.
Alhamdulillah.
I'm like, who is this brother? I don't know what you was talking about. I would love to hear that talk again, because I was like, who is that?
The tapes are here.
Okay.
Every tape I gave at Master Taco is here.
Okay, inshallah. We got to check it out. And so, eventually, I wanted to do it. So, I called myself putting on hijab. Because, they was like, you got to wear khimar. You can't wear that tight clothes anymore. Because, I was a kafir at the time, So, I was looking like regular like anybody else. And so I wasn't exactly wearing hijab, but my clothes wasn't nowhere near like how I used to wear before.
You was wearing half hijab?
No. He's so funny. And so I was wearing this.
Your daughter said you was thirsty.
So I was on my way to the sister house, and I took my shahada there. Alhamdulillah. And that was like the spring of 97.
What was the sister's name house you took shahada at?
Her name was Amina.
Amina.
Yeah. Keep her in your du'as. I haven't spoken to her.
May Allah bless Sister Amina wherever you are.
I don't know where she is, but may Allah bless all those sisters. Naima, Basima, Hania. Hania, I'm still, she was one of the crew. She's on Facebook. Alhamdulillah. And it was some other sisters. I can't remember right now, but those are the ones that.
There's always one you definitely forget.
Yeah, I don't remember that, so we not gonna mention that. But anyway,
why you always forget?
Anyway, so I'm still with this dude. I'm still a new shahada.
That's Haram, sister.
You know what? All right, Haram, please. So I came back to him. I said, I'm Muslim now. So this to school me like you got to be married. You got to be married. You can't be doing that. So I'm like, won't you marry me? I proposed to him. Because I was sincere. Yeah, I proposed to him.
MashaAllah.
You know what this person, he's Muslim. I'm gonna be nice. You know what he told me? He turned me down. Well, how did he turn me down?
Break it down.
He told me he likes sex too much. He can't do that. That was his answer. This is a Muslim. And I'm like, you know better. You Muslim. You know you're not supposed to be doing this, because I didn't know.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, you think you better than me now? So he flipped it on me like I'm trying to be all religious.
I'm actually happy. Alhamdulillah.
I was like, but you know better.
Alhamdulillah.
You've been, Muslim longer. You know better. You know you're not supposed to be doing all this. So I guess I was preaching to him, but I was trying to make it right. So let's be together, in a halal manner.
Yeah.
But he didn't want that. So, alhamdulillah, That's his loss.
If loving you is wrong,
I don't want to be. He don't want to be right, but that was his minhaj at the time. Subhanallah. So, alhamdulillah that he did that, because we wouldn't have been together. So I know.
When you took Shahada, what masjids were you going to?
When after I took Shahada?
Yeah.
I went to one masjid. It was on, I forgot you know better than me. I don't know these masjid. It was on Fulton Street. It wasn't Taqwa at the time. Taqwa came later. Masjid Taqwa came later.
Going further down, like towards East New York and Brownsville, right?
Going towards Bushwick.
Yeah, you was going to.
I forgot what the name of that masjid.
I had it on the tip of my tongue because I knew you was going there, and they had moved it around the block. And then I forgot. It
was like on the second floor or something like that. I forgot. It was.
Wow. So,
yeah.
My tongue wants to say Masjid Iqwa, but that's Eastern Parkway. That's something different.
I went there one time, but the one I frequent was down this, going towards Bushwick.
I know what you're talking
from Taqwa, and eventually I went to Masjid Taqwa.
So you went there first, the Masjid, whose name I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
And then you started going to Taqwa.
Right, and I went to the Iqwa, the one you mentioned. Mm-hmm. I went there one time. That's where the McDonald's is over there. Yeah. Yep, I went to that one before. I'm trying to think, did I go to any other masjids? I don't remember. But Masjid Taqwa became my home at the time. Yeah, so, and that was 97. Alhamdulillah. So, I know everybody have their stories and how, Allah brought them to the DEEN. Mm-hmm. And, what I could say when I became Muslim, I had sisters that, Masjid Farouk.
No, that's Farouk is Atlantic Avenue.
Yeah, Atlantic Avenue. Yeah. That's downtown Brooklyn. The sisters, there was a real sisterhood. We had that love for one another. We used to fast together, like during Ramadan, we would fast together, we would study together. It was just beautiful. Like I would always have love for those sisters because they showed me what Islam is, how it's supposed to feel and what it looked like. Yep. I will always remember that.
Yep. Your married brothers in prison together.
What you say?
You married brothers?
Yes, I did. See, he want to put my stuff out there. Okay, you want to put that.
That's part of your story.
Yeah, okay.
That's a segue.
Okay. Yes, brothers and sisters. I end up marrying a brother in jail. One of the sisters.
Fatima would say, yeah, the sister was great. I missed them days.
SubhanAllah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, I did. Okay. And when I did.
Stop right there.
You have a lot of sisters that married to brothers.
I know. Stop right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a proof, brothers, that you will find good sisters that's serious about their deen that marry somebody in prison.
That's true. That's sincere.
Because I met her shortly after this. And one thing about her then, and she's still like that now, is that once she finds out that Allah and His Messenger says this or that, that's what her opinion is. Mm-hmm. It's hard to find people like that. Nowadays, people want to be like, well, my opinion is this, so how can I make the deen, fit my opinion? Mm-hmm. That's where a lot of people are now. You like old school, okay, I'm going to keep my opinion on hold. What does Allah and His Messenger say? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's what Allah and His Messenger says. Okay, this is the way I'm going to be. Mm-hmm. And so, I say that to say, I'm not trying to, beat you over the head.
Yeah, you beat me over the head. May Allah make me better.
but, somebody with a stance and an Islamic posture like that marries someone that's in prison.
Right.
And your daughter said she see you cheesing under the niqab.
You so crazy.
Yeah, you can't tell because your cheeks.
Let me skip to you when you come in here. So eventually, I married his brother, and something happened where he just disappeared. Now this is I'm not even gonna go. I don't want to mess up my good deeds or anything like that. But we got married in one of the visiting rooms.
Visiting room.
Yeah, we was in the visiting room.
Did y'all take a jailhouse picture together?
we probably did. Yep. In the green, he wearing green. I don't even know where he was located up there. I don't know. But we was married in one of the visiting rooms, and I came up there a couple of times. You know how you do the commissary, sending, you know, boxes and whatever, because, you know, that's my husband. So after a while, I believe he disappeared, or I'm like, I'm not feeling this anymore. We weren't married a long time. At least I thought we were married. So I went to Imam Siraj for consultation, and I asked him basically, how can I get out of this situation? Because we hadn't consummated. They didn't have conjugal visits at this jail, so you know. And so I'm like, how do I get out of this? So it's funny because when I got up to leave the imam, this brother right here was coming down the hallway, and I was passing him. And so I didn't know anything. I passed him. He went, I guess he was going to the imam's office, and I left. And I think I visited him a couple of times, you know, regarding that situation. So he said, one of the meetings, you was there. I think he called you in there.
He called me in the office.
Yeah. And he was like, I want you to help this sister. I want you to take care of the sister, do what you got to do, what have you. So that's how we met. We exchanged information, and you started asking me questions and find out my situation. And what did you find out, since you want to bring that up?
We investigated. We talked it.
Look, what kind of language is that? Is that Brooklyn, Philly? What, where you?
I talked it just like I liked it.
Oh, okay. We're going to get to that, Farouk.
I think he got deported.
Yes, he got deported.
I believe that's what it was, but...
Yes, Michael. Mine too, yes. MashaAllah.
We investigated. We talked to, I guess, it was either his friend's wife or whatever, and we came to the conclusion that there were a lot of the integrals of the marriage weren't even in place. Wasn't even enough witnesses. It was just, the whole thing was jacked up.
Right. So
we took all of our information back to Imam Siraj, and he annulled the marriage.
Right. So I got out of it just as fast as I got into it. So alhamdulillah, I got out of that situation. Alhamdulillah. Now this wasn't like overnight. We had to do some investigation, and you had to talk to people. Now, we weren't together. It was always a third party. Brother Jihad. I remember. Brother Jihad.
He might be watching now. He's my friend on
he used
Facebook.
to call the Adhan. I remember him. He had this beautiful voice. MashaAllah. Brother Jihad used to accompany us on these runs. So I put that out there because... these days and time, sisters and brothers.
Yeah, be alone all the time.
All the time in the cars and traveling. And
now we got social media, so people be getting at sisters in social media directly, and there's no problem with it. They be, whole relationships be developing, and they not married, and they not intended on being married or nothing like that. And it's cool nowadays. Right. It wasn't like that.
It wasn't like that, and because of the internet, it's opening up, it opened up the world to you. So you could be talking to like 100 different people and they wouldn't know. Right. You know what I mean? So it's like, we didn't have social media back then. Yeah.
We was just getting into cell phones. That was that period between beepers and pagers and cell phones.
Right. And them big them little crazy looking cell phones. So, so that was my situation. So how he annulled it, there wasn't enough witnesses. Now, because this is a marriage show, half your DEEN show, you have to have enough witnesses. I only had one. I had one witness and a female.
And that was a brother who performed in the case.
It was a sister and a husband and me and a brother. And they supposedly married us like that. So I wasn't married. I didn't know that. But that's not a valid marriage. I didn't know I was a, new shahada. Right. And, just a point for new shahadas or, sisters that talk to Muslim men. You need to talk to a sister.
And you need to talk to somebody who knows their deen.
Yeah.
Because I approach marriage now like the way when you go into emergency room, like when you go into emergency room and you tell the nurse there or whoever you see first that, well, this is what's wrong with me. You know, I came here for some medicine or I need to see a doctor. They don't just say, okay, go stand right there. You're going to see the next doctor. No, you got to get triaged first. They ask you questions. They ask you your medical history. Do you got diabetes in your family? Do you got, they ask you all these things. Are you taking any medications now? They ask you a whole bunch of questions.
Right.
And if you're already in the system, they pull up whatever information they have, and then they ask you some questions to verify. They triage you.
Right.
And then when you finally get in front of that doctor, the doctor asks you a bunch of questions. And then the doctor's just not going to take your word for it. That, that, okay, this is what's wrong with you, so I'm going to give you this medicine because you said that's what's wrong with you. No, the doctor is going to go based upon his opinion or his assessment of what he think your ailment is, and then treat you.
Right.
When I deal with brothers and sisters who want to get married now, I do the exact same thing. Like, especially if I don't know you, I don't know your situation, or maybe I know one of you, but I don't know the other one's situation. I'm getting all the information.
Right.
And nowadays people are so sneaky and slimy, and they trying to get over on the other person, or they both trying to get over on you as the imam. And so a lot of people, they're not forthcoming with information. There's something that they're trying to hide.
Right.
And so I ask a whole bunch of questions. I ask the same questions in different ways because, number one, I want to see if this is the sister, is she still married to someone else? Because a lot of times sisters be married and then get married to another brother, and they don't even care about properly dissolving their previous marriage.
Right.
We don't mess with each other anymore. I kicked them out and now I'm moving on. They don't Islamically dissolve the marriage. Right? So they just want to move on,
Right.
No care for about what Allah or His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam laid down. I want to make sure that the sister knows her rights. I want to make sure that the brother knows his rights.
Right.
And a lot of times, a lot of people, they don't even want to go through that process. Why? Because there's something that maybe he or she is trying to hide from him or her, or they both got something that they're trying to hide from me. And so usually, nowadays the integrity is shot. So a lot of times the process breaks down and they'll move on and try to find somebody else to conduct or facilitate the marriage who's not going to get into all that. Somebody that's just going to recite the 3 or 4 ayats and, accept whatever type of dowry or no dowry and have maybe no witness, like a situation that you had there. And alhamdulillah, I'm married.
Right. SubhanAllah.
And just for the record, and I've been meaning to post it for the longest. Remind me to do it after the show. I want to post it on all our social media and print it out and post it in the masjid. What is the requirements for getting married at Masjid Al Mu'min?
Okay, inshallah.
So just let people know at the gate. So this is the least that's going to be required. Well, I'm not even going to mess with them. Because we're going to have to get counseled a few times. We follow the school of Ahl Medina, Amal Ahl Medina, or the Maliki school. Your dowry is going to have to be at least worth the quarter of a dinar. I'm requiring that you get tested for all known STDs and show the results to each other. And usually, a lot of times people they bail right at that time. Test for what?
Right. I ain't gotta do that.
Right. That's not the sunnah.
Yeah.
They want to go sunnah on you. And
it might have to go deeper than that because you got people changing their so-called sex, and the brothers can't see the female. You can see their face,
right?
But you're not seeing that neck.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And even the neck don't matter. Back in the old school days, see if she got an Adam's apple. That don't even apply no more.
Right. The neck, you don't see any other parts of that person until that night. Yeah. So, Allah forbid one of y'all brothers, because some of y'all brothers are so thirsty, y'all don't even do any due diligence when y'all be finding sisters. Y'all just be just whatever. Now, sisters too, but I'm just talking about the brothers because...
And we don't know if they have... Well, I don't know if they have, because I'm sure that surgery, that sex change surgery, I'm sure it's costly. We don't know if certain healthcare is covering it.
Yeah.
If they got payment plans.
Yeah,
we don't know.
Yeah,
because it seems like a lot of people's getting this surgery.
Yeah, they got it. It is covered. And so, you're taking all these hormones, but just imagine a brother bring a brother home. He supposed to be a sister such and such. And you don't know until, and say they had the surgery. I guess you get a hole, and I don't want to get, too graphic, but you realize, or maybe you look, I don't know, and you're like, you used to be a dude, or you don't even find out till later. Like, subhanAllah, like, that's why I said, what is the family unit going to look like 20 years from now? Because, subhanAllah, I'm scared for you brothers. I'm scared for them sisters, too.
On top of the down, like Farouk said, on top of the down low brothers and sisters. You said
right.
You about to read a question or something? Yeah,
about to read a question. So, just think about these things. People want to rush into these situations, and you have brothers saying, that's the sunnah, and, I have right to just marry. Yes, you do, but you got to tie your camel. You got to ask questions. You got to investigate. You got to know this person. If you're just marrying somebody off the street, you don't know what or who this person is. And then you find yourself in a situation, you might be that type of dude, maybe like, oh, well, I'm going to deal with this. A'udhu billah, because like the brother said, low down brothers, he might want a transgender, a transvestite. And so, or the brother ain't with that, and he end up going to jail because he done murdered this person. And I'm not advocating murder, but I'm just saying it has happened where dudes find out that the girl that he was with was not who he said he was supposed to be, and he ended up murdering them. So
there's one thing. I need somebody to do this research. Alhamdulillah, we have a research group. So maybe after our next project, this might be one thing that we do. But certain states allow people to alter their gender on their birth certificates. Mm-hmm. So if somebody was born a boy and they had an operation, they can change their birth certificate and say that they're female. We need to, I think all imams, masters need to have a list of what states allow you to do that.
Right.
That'd
be a question to ask. Are you a male or female?
Let me see your birth certificate. That may not even matter.
Right.
Based upon the state that they was born in, because they can maybe have their birth certificate changed.
Yeah, subhanAllah. So it's a scary world out here. Let me get to this question. A Sunni brother meets a Sunni Shia sister who was in a muta marriage.
A sushi.
I guess a Sunni Shia.
Okay.
To a Shia brother. The sister wants to marry the Sunni brother. So the sister is Shia, Sunni Shia. The brother's a Sunni.
I don't know what a Sunni Shia is, but go ahead.
As Sunnis, do we recognize a Shia muta marriage like we do Christians and Jewish marriages? Does the sister have an
Let me stop. First question.
Okay.
As Sunnis, do we recognize a Shia muta? No. Marriage like we do Christians and Jewish marriages. No, I got to answer that. I got to get a little bit more in depth with that question. As far as recognize, we recognize that historically, during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was muta marriage. It was permitted, then outlawed, then permitted, and then outlawed finally again by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and never permitted again. Right. Okay. So that's our the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah. That's our position with regards to mut'ah. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited it. It says like we do Christian and Jewish marriages. No, that's two separate subjects. A Muslim man is permitted to marry a Jewish or a Christian woman, or what's called kitabi or ahlul kitab. A lot of people think that permission or that rukhsa it extends to all non-Muslim women. In other words, a lot of Muslims think
Muslim men.
A lot of Muslim men think that they can marry any non-Muslim women, and that's not true. You can only marry a Muslim woman, a Jewish woman, or a Christian woman. Period. Full stop.
Okay. Does the sister have an iddat she must complete, or can she simply denounce her marriage and get married?
There's always an iddah. It just depends on what type of iddah it is. I'm not sure. Assuming the marriage, whatever marriage you're talking about, is valid. And I need to say something about the Shia. I don't know what a Sushi is, a Sunni / Shiite. When you dealing with people, when an Islamic scholar or a qadi deals or is dealing, has to give the hukum on a person, has to categorize a person. Mm-hmm. They don't do it by group. Or you go to this masjid, or you give yourself this label, so this is how you judge. It don't work like that. Mm-hmm. They ask what the person actually believes in. Mm-hmm. So in Shiite, there's a whole bunch of categories that all qualify under Shiite. So you can't even answer that question. Somebody says, okay, she's Shiite. You can't even answer.
Yeah, what that mean? What does she believe?
Because you have, for example, on one extreme end of the spectrum, there's some of them that believe that Angel Jibril went to the wrong house to give the revelation, and it was supposed to go to Ali. Mm-hmm. Even though the first revelation didn't even come to the house, it was in the cave. But long story short, they believe that Ali was supposed to be the prophet. That's at one extreme end of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. At the other extreme end of the spectrum, you have some people who would classify themselves as Shia, but they don't curse Abu Bakr. They don't curse Umar or Ali, even though they prefer that Ali was to be the Khalifa. Mm-hmm. Right? So, according to our Aqidah, that person maybe have some problem with them, but it doesn't take them outside of Islam.
Right.
See, these are individual questions, not a question that you just throw a blanket over the whole group, or the person is Shiite. And so, okay, this person, Muslim, not Muslim, it don't work like that. So, that question dealing with this, so whatever this sushi is supposed to be, that's a question that the imam would have to ask that individual person. Mm-hmm. You can't even go on and say, okay, well, they go to that Shiite masjid and that Shiite imam believes such and such. No, you got to ask that person what they believe.
Right. If she denounces the previous marriage, I don't understand who is in a muta marriage to a Shia brother. Okay, she married a Shia brother. If she denounces the previous marriage, does she have to denounce her previous shahada? So that previous relationship isn't considered zina, I guess.
Islam recognizes the marriage of, when I say recognizes marriage, mm-hmm. Period.
Right.
So if somebody becomes Muslim, if the woman becomes Muslim, mm-hmm. time is given for the husband to take shahada.
Right.
Now I'm speaking technically now. Mm-hmm. I always forget what that time period is. I think it's 90 days. I could be wrong though. Any of my fiqh scholars listening, chime in. The non-Muslim husband is given time to take shahada. Mm-hmm. And if he doesn't take shahada, then their marriage is null and void. I don't remember if the woman does go through an iddah, if that takes place. She has an iddah.
Okay.
Zayd ibn Hauser said, "What constitutes a Christian woman nowadays and a Jewish woman? The same thing that constitutes a Muslim woman. If that's what they call themselves, whether they adhere to the book or not, whatever, that person will still be considered what they're considered. Whether they believe in the Trinity or not, whether, they're Unitary Christians or Trinitarians or whatever, they still considered Christian or Jewish or whatever."
Okay. So, what were we talking about?
What were you talking about?
Yeah, what was I talking about? So, alhamdulillah, yeah, so that was our situation. So, I hope you caught those little tidbits about, especially the brothers meeting these non-Muslim sisters. Mm-hmm. You got to be very careful. You got to think about this. Now, yes, Allah allows the brothers to marry women other than Muslim women. But think about when you get into that situation, when you have children with this person, mm-hmm. Are y'all going to be celebrating, Christmas in your household, will the children be raised as Muslim, or are they going to be raised as Muslim and a Christian? You know, it's a whole lot. And then think about your wife that you have chosen. You know, her hereafter. When you marry someone, you are concerned with their hereafter. And just because you are allowed to marry her, she's not going to be allowed to have the same, consideration because she's not Muslim. So during that marriage, you need to be giving your wife dawah.
Farouk said we're talking about marriage qualification at our masjid. Yeah, I was just mentioning that in passing.
Yeah, that's in passing. So you have to be mindful of these women. You should be giving dawah to her and not just, okay, Allah allowed me to marry this woman and just leave it at that. You know, you want that woman to dress modestly. You know, you shouldn't want her to walk around just like everybody else, because this is your wife now. Because if you want people looking at her in a certain way, that makes you a cuckoo. That makes you a dayuth, you know.
And also, Allah qualifies when he legalizes or makes that ruqsa in Surah Al-Ma'idah. He said, "Muhsinat min al-utul kitab." Chase women from the people of the book. You can't marry no hoe from the people of the book. No, she has to be a chaste woman.
MashaAllah. She's not out there sleeping around or what have you. So, you know, just be mindful when you do that, because it's not just your right to be able to do that. There's some responsibility and accountability in that. You got children to think about that comes out of this marriage if there's children.
Fatima asks, can you marry a non-Muslim woman and it's okay if she stays non-Muslim? No, you can't marry any non-Muslim woman. She has to be Christian or Jewish. Right.
You just can't be anybody. It can't be somebody that worship.
Other
than that. I'm sorry. I had to finish my sentence. Go ahead.
No, you don't have to finish nothing. You can bow down and interrupt yourself and let me finish saying what I'm saying. And then you can say what you can say. No. Alhamdulillah. My train of thought.
She was saying, so you can marry a non-Muslim.
We actually did a show about it. We're gonna actually do it again. We don't have to do it one time. But most of our scholars say, even though Allah made it permissible, first of all, number one, it's a ruqsa. Mm-hmm. It's a ruqsa is a dispensation, what I like to call a loophole or something that is not the norm, right. But a situation you may encounter a situation where you may want to avail yourself of that loophole or that dispensation, but it's not the norm.
The priority is the Muslim woman.
The priority is the Muslim woman.
So you should be looking to want to marry a Muslim woman.
And this was explicitly stated by, top-ranking Sahaba, especially Umar ibn al-Khattab. Mm-hmm. Because there were a lot of Sahaba who was marrying non-Muslim women. Mm-hmm. And he actually wrote letters to them telling them to divorce your wife. And they wrote back saying, are you trying to say it's haram? He's like, no, I'm not saying that it's haram, but you need to divorce your wife. Mm-hmm. In other words, this is Umar leaning on them, like, I can't make you do it, but you need to do it. Right. And he explained himself, because if you start doing this, because he's talking to other Sahaba, who, and this is after the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and so these are the teachers of the Tabi'een, the next generation. Right. He said, if you start doing this, and they're outside of, most of them that's doing this, they're outside of Mecca and Medina. Right. So if you start doing this, then those people who are following you and taking from you and watching you, they're going to start doing it. Right. They're going to start doing it, and they're going to abandon the Muslim women. The same things that the Muslim sisters are saying now about all the brothers marrying non-Muslim women is the exact same thing Umar ibn al-Khattab said 1,300 years ago when a few Sahaba did it.
Exactly.
He said, they're going to start leaving the Muslim women, because the Muslim women can't walk around and flaunt their stuff like the non-Muslim can.
Right.
Umar ibn Khattab said that in a letter. Because, you marry these non-Muslim women, you seeing them, they're not all covered. The Muslim woman is covered.
Right.
Well, the Muslim woman's supposed to be covered.
Right.
So the Muslim woman's trying to cover up because she fear Allah. And you see, whoa, Persian Jewish woman look fine. Ooh, Christian chick is bad. It's halal, let me do it.
Right.
And so, and even at that time, it was looked down on, even though some Sahaba did it. But at that time, they didn't have, they had izzah. They had, power, authority, confidence. They was governing themselves. And so you didn't have the issue what if I divorce my Christian wife? How is my child going to be raised?
Right.
Is the authority going to give, is the government going to give the upbringing of, if I divorce my non-Muslim wife, is the government going to give my child to this non-Muslim woman to raise, whatever? And sometimes I be wondering, brothers don't be thinking about that stuff when they get married. And I say to myself, what if they are thinking about that and they still don't care?
Right.
Like, well, I don't care if my child is raised as Christian. I don't care.
Yeah. MashaAllah.
Alhamdulillah. Shukran, Farouk, for joining in and participating. Alhamdulillah.
What advice can be given to these types of Muslims where sects or certain madhabs can't or won't marry due to their madhab or sect?
Well, I always like to clarify things since we are Muslim. I like to speak technically first and then get to what's on the ground. In Islam, when you use the word sect, you're talking about someone that differs from you in aqidah, belief system. That's what's technically mean when you say sect. Nowadays, people, when they say sect, they mean, well, he's Maliki sect and he's Shafi sect. No, technically, Islamically speaking, that's not a sect. Those two things aren't sects. When you talked about sects, firqa, or different sects, you talk about people who have major differences in their belief system. So, for example, Sunni Shiite, those are two different sects, right?
Right.
Shiite, Qadiani, those are two different sects. Those will be considered sects in Islam. The Mu'tazila, that's a different sect, right? Now, with that being said, a Muslim can marry a Muslim. If the person is still technically considered Muslim, you can marry that person. Now, years later, you had some times and places where people get extreme with their madhab and they don't marry outside their madhab. That's just jahiliyyah. That's just culture hiding under the garb of a madhab. Because there's nothing in the madhabs, the four madhabs that say a Maliki can't marry a Hanafi or anything like that. That's just people injecting their culture into the madhab.
MashaAllah. So
yeah. So how do we get married?
How?
Yeah. I think you always forget. But why you all that breathing and stuff?
No, what are you about to say? Because I don't know what's going to come out your mouth because we have not discussed what we're going to share and not share. So
you always forget this, but I didn't only meet you when Imam Siraj had me dissolve that thing that you called a marriage at the time, right? Or he didn't have me dissolve. He had me investigate it. He dissolved it. But there was also a summer camp going on at the masjid,
right?
And Sister Hoop was running that camp.
Sister Imani
was running that camp.
On her soul, yes.
I mean. It's her son who actually became the city council person over there in Cleveland. Bashir.
Yeah.
His mother, named Imani. She was running a summer camp out of the masjid at the time. And you had put your son, Saeed, in the summer camp. Yeah. And I was helping her at the summer camp.
My husband said I'm a forgetful one too. Yeah. Yes. So we did. Yeah, we did meet through there, alhamdulillah. And so
I remember, I know you remember this part. I was playing with Saeed during the camp. I don't know what we was doing, some kind of martial arts or just goofing around. And I think I made a mistake and dropped him on his head.
Yeah,
and I came to you apologizing with that old stupid look on my face. I didn't mean to hurt your son, sister, whatever. Why are you laughing at that?
Because you're a mess. That's why you're crazy now. No, let's say. But yes, that happened. And then you just want to go through everything, right?
No, just, just for our children.
Oh, for our children?
Yeah.
Okay, then, since you want to bring something up, the brother.
What brother?
The brother that was like giving little candy to my son.
Oh man, this is an excellent story. When I was helping my wife, but she wasn't my wife at the time. When I was helping her trying to dissolve or figure out what was going on with this so-called marriage.
Mm-hmm.
One time, I think we was all getting into the car, or getting out of the car, at front of the masjid.
Mm-hmm.
And the brother pulled me to the side, was like, alhamdulillah, brother, I just want to give you some sincere advice. It's not proper, for two Muslims to be alone. I was like, alone? What are you talking about? We weren't alone. We was with brother sex. And so, okay, I'm just letting you know, because, nobody's above advice. So that's okay, alhamdulillah.
Mm-hmm.
You trying to marry this sister? I'm like, nah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm interested.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He told me he was interested.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. Alhamdulillah, it ain't got nothing to do with me.
Right.
Because it was another brother that was your wali.
Right. Alhamdulillah. Yeah.
So, you had all these brothers in your life. You had Imam Siraj handling your affairs. He delegated
well, at least
me
I
to
had
help
a
you.
wali.
He delegated me that he appointed you your wali too, right?
I'm not sure. I forgot how that. I forgot.
Yeah, and then he asked me to help out. Mm-hmm. So in any case, at the time we never talked anything like that. So it was like, nah, what are you talking about? If I'm interested,
I'm trying to get out this situation because this dude like disappeared.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I thought I was gonna be stuck married to him for the rest of my life. That's what I'm thinking. Like, oh my gosh, like I just felt like all is lost. So yeah.
So he's because I'm interested in the sister and all that kind of stuff.
But you ain't tell me that though.
When did I tell you? Was it after we got married?
Yeah, it was later or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I know I remember when I told you. Because we found out in hindsight that this brother's older than both of us at the time.
Yeah, he had henna in his beard. So he had gray hair, but he had the henna. I remember that part.
Yeah.
And at that time, he must have been like, I don't know, 20, 30 years older than me because I was in my 20s.
Right.
But
in any case, later on we found out that this brother was giving Saeed candy and stuff. Mm-hmm. That was his way, I guess, of getting at
you. Away, yeah.
Sister, you need to marry me. You know how much candy I done brought for your son, right? But in any case, we get married way after that, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not thinking nothing about the brother and whatever. And we for a short period of time we ran these Sunday lectures at the masjid, where I got one of the brothers that owns one of the stores on Fulton Street to provide food free of charge. Now we'll have different brothers come and give lectures on different topics, on Sunday evening. Mm-hmm. That same brother, he asked me to do a talk. And I told him no for whatever reason, right? And so sometime after that had passed, and then he pulled me to the side. Mm-hmm. And he said, brother, I hated you for a long time. And, I just had to get that out of my heart. And this is what I'm telling you now. I said, hated me? Well, I did not to you. Like, we don't even deal with each other like that. And he was like, nah, because I felt like, you didn't want, you prevented me from, giving a talk. And, you told me I couldn't get a talk. And then I told you that I wanted to marry that sister. And then you turned around and married her. I'm like, huh? What sister? Your wife. What? Remember the time I told you? I'm like, oh, subhanallah. I'm like, first of all, Aki, I said, when you had asked me that, we thought she was married to somebody else. We were dealing with that situation. And then the situation as far as me and her ended up getting married, that came way after the fact, and we talked about it. I didn't think nothing about it. Mm-hmm. She never told me that you approached her for marriage. Well, I didn't, but I was interested. Right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, wow, okay. And so when we talk, and he, in his mind, I had this thing against him, mm-hmm. and I'm just hating on him. Right. You know, he wanted to marry his sister, so I married her. Right. He wanted to give a talk. No, you can't give a talk, right? You know, so his mind, he had built all this stuff up.
All that anger and grudges.
And so after we finished the conversation, he felt like, subhanAllah, I wish I'd have came to talk to you earlier, because it wasn't even like that. Right. That's when I told you about it. And he was like, that's why he was giving Saeed all the candy and stuff like that.
But that's funny. It is not funny, but it's funny how people can have animosity against you and you don't even know it. Like, this person is thinking about you in a manner that you couldn't even fathom that is happening at the time. You know, people walking around here holding grudges and, you know, and all types of stuff in their hearts, and you making up these scenarios in your head that this person is doing something against you. But because the communication wasn't there, it wasn't, you know, it was the communication was not there, you went on and assumed something against your brother or sister in Islam that you held it so long, you start hating them. Like, we should be safe from, you know, our brothers, sisters.
But I give him credit, though, because we were still in New York, so that had to be maybe like less than a year. Mm-hmm.
But he did that
after our marriage.
Yeah.
And he held that grudge forever, however long he held it. But at least he came with it.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, so alhamdulillah, he did. But I'm just thinking, like, you don't know. You walk around here and somebody's like, hate your guts, and they might be Muslim. Yeah. You know, and you don't even know nothing, and they may not even say nothing to you.
Nope, they just hate you.
They just hate you, or they act funny or whatever, and you don't know nothing. You know, like, I didn't do anything to this person. And I'm sure that a lot of us can relate to that. There's somebody, you don't even talk to them like that to even for them to have an attitude, but they got an attitude. They mad about something. But you'll be surprised what they hold in their hearts against you. And you'll be like, subhanAllah. And it's scary. It's like, dang, people walking around here hate me. Oh, somebody want to do something to me. I didn't even do anything to them. So we have to keep in dua, you know, protect ourselves in our households, because we don't know what's festering in people's hearts.
And nowadays we more connected than ever, and so maybe somebody has that hatred towards you, and it's real easy to find somebody else that hates you, and so they just water that seed.
Yeah, they form together.
I don't like that nigga either. Yeah, you got a reason not to hate him because he did this to me.
Right. SubhanAllah, I didn't even know who he was. I seen him and I saw him give candy, but I didn't think nothing of it. I wasn't even thinking about that. I'm trying to get out the situation that I was currently in at the time. So that's crazy. So if you find yourself in that situation, you know, and it unveils itself, you know, try to squash it, you know, and if you really didn't do anything to this person, you know, sincerely tell them, I didn't mean anything. You know, I didn't mean to do any harm or keep anything away from you. But there are people, if they know you trying to marry a sister, they're going to marry that sister and jump in front of you. Or if it's a sister that want to marry a brother, that sister going to, you know, the sister know that this sister is interested in the brother. She going to get in his inbox or do something to, you know, circumvent what you trying to go on. Sometimes you don't need to tell anybody anything because they end up.
Or you could be married to a sister and brothers will, you know, try to test the water. They'll, you know, friend request the sister. Let's see if she accept. Okay, let me engage her a little bit. There's slimy brothers out there like that. Okay. We living during the slimy brother era.
Yeah, and end up ending your marriage so he could hook up. Like, you be going to the same brother, you know, excuse me, you know, you going to this brother like, that sister foul, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, brother, you need to get rid of her. And then next thing you know, it's an announcement over the intercom, brother such and such, and your ex-wife is getting married. Yeah. You're like, wait a minute. How would this, you know, so you got to be careful.
Not over the intercom, you know. Facebook.
I'm just saying it's intercom. I'm just saying.
Facebook notification.
Yeah, I just went old school like that. Question: is using a digital Muslim matrimony?
Don't click on it.
Oh.
No, because I was just reading that comment here and it disappeared. Maybe they deleted it, but read it. That's why I said don't click on it. I wanted you to read it. I didn't know if it was going to disappear from here, but go ahead. My bad.
It's using a digital format, Muslim matrimony websites to meet and have Maida accepted in Islam. I don't know what that means.
It's using a digital format, Muslim matrimony websites, to meet and have Maida, like a food, have dinner together, acceptable in Islam. How can two men who want to marry a Muslim or vice versa? How does one handle this? First, anything that's permissible to do without social media is permissible to do with social media. I'll give you an example. A lot of people ask, is getting married on the phone permissible? Yes, to get married. Yes, it's permissible. What's your proof? We do qiyas from when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam married Habiba when she was in Abyssinia. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent a letter, a marriage proposal to Habiba for marriage. And of course she accepted, and Najashi, the Ethiopian king, he performed the wedding. So that was long distance marriage. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wasn't there. It was performed in his absence. It was performed in her absence because she was someplace else when the marriage was actually taking place, the ceremony. You know what I mean? And so, and when you go outside of the West, like you go to a lot of Muslim societies, Africa, Asia, the wedding ceremony, usually the woman's not there. Many times the husband's not there. It's happening in the masjid or someplace else, and you know all the technicalities. Then the word gets sent back to the husband and wife that, hey, the marriage has just been finished. Y'all's married now. A lot of times here we think, no, they both have to be there, and that's not even the case.
Right. Now, as far as like these matrimonial sites, like I was saying, you know, the internet, it opens up. Like you could be talking to multiple people.
Right.
Just like you can have like I'm not putting this on anybody. You can have brothers that travel different cities, right? Meeting sisters, and nobody know each other. He only can have 4 wives, but he's meeting like 20 different women, and telling 20 different women, I'm looking to marry you.
Right.
You know, so where's the, you know, how do you control that? Even though that may be permissible, how is that regulated? Because you don't know who's talking to who. The sister might be talking to a whole bunch of brothers on this matrimonial site.
Yeah.
And whoever's running these sites is not, regulating who they speak to. They're not looking at their profile and say, okay, sister, you're already talking to one brother. You only can marry one brother. But I'm seeing you talking to 20 different brothers. You know, like, we got to have some taqwa in this, you know? Yeah. Because nobody's regulating. So you got to know yourself. You know what you're doing. If you a brother, you marry, and you talking to 20 different sisters, be real with yourself. Either you talking to 20 different sisters, or you playing.
And I have to be honest with you. Just, not you, but just our listeners and our viewers. There are a lot of brothers and sisters, they just literally just playing. They're literally playing with the DEEN. Literally.
Right.
They're just trying to get more booty. Period. Full stop.
Or eggplant.
Eggplant. Yeah. Right? That's all they're concerned with. And they try their best to make it halal. And if they can't make it halal, they just do it haram.
Right. Oh, go ahead.
I mean, there's people literally living their life like that. They're meeting people on social media, and a lot of times they get married, like on social media or however they get married. They hook up, maybe go to a hotel or whatever right quick, and then they get divorced right after that.
Right.
And they just move through life like that, and they cool with that. Male and female, they doing it. So. Like they like we here talking serious about raising children and having a stable family, and people they don't even care nothing about all that. Like we square to them.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have the type of Muslim brothers that they may have 1 or 2 wives. That they serious with,
right?
And they raising children,
right?
And all that kind of stuff,
and rotate.
Like one of my brothers told me when I first moved to Philly, they said they call that the mainstay. They got his mainstay wife, whatever, but the other 1, 2, 3, or 4, they rotate. You know, I met this cool chick, sister on Facebook. Yeah, we're gonna get married. yeah, I'm gonna go see whatever. We got a hotel for 3 days, whatever. Come back, she might be in Ida before he get back home, right? And you talking about, well, that's Talaku Bid'ah. They don't care nothing about all that stuff. They don't care about that. They don't care nothing about that stuff.
The mar, the dowry.
Yeah.
He don't give the dowry.
Nope.
And they be like, well, let's call it even. You want a
yeah, I'll give you a kula.
Right.
Right, and I ain't give you the dowry, right? I ain't give you the dowry already because it was deferred. So in kula, you get the dowry back. So fair exchange ain't no robbery. We just hooked up at this hotel, whatever. You ain't lose nothing. I ain't lose nothing. Bye, peace.
Yeah.
That's how a lot of so-called Muslims are doing it.
You're right, Sister Malika. She said, yes, mashallah, they put more effort into picking out car insurance, and they will never speak about rights or children. That's right, because children can come out of it, and you have, like, revolving doors, in and out, people in and out, especially if you do have children. These people are in and out of this person's life, if they bring them home, because you said a hotel. These children may not even know that their parents got married. Or was with the sister, or depending on who the parent is. Like where's the subhanAllah, where's the higher? Like, I don't understand. It's like when you take shahada, in my mind, you are trying to make a change, a serious change. You trying to be different than what you were when you came into the deen. And once you do that, you make an oath that I'm going to live my life to the fullest that is pleasurable to Allah. That's supposed to be your mindset. So whatever that involves, you're going to try to master that. Right. We're not perfect, but that's what you should be thinking. But it's crazy because people are doing this and they're turning people away from the deen that want to practice the right way and get played during this. And how do you take them seriously?
And these people, they're extremely selfish. They'll throw the whole ummah under the bus just so they can do what they want to do. Like one example that come to my mind. There's one sister in this one particular city. She ran across this non-Muslim dude she wanted to marry. Mm-hmm. So she just gave him shahada. However, she took shahada. He wasn't never really practicing no deen like that, right? And then they married. He moved in with her, and then at some point he started beating her. Mm. No Muslim community at all whatsoever was involved with this marriage. At the beginning of it or during it. Mm-hmm. Now the dude that she dragged in off the street is beating her. And so now she's reaching out to the different Muslim communities in her city to help get the brother out, and deal with the marriage situation. And nobody was helping her the way she thought they should help her. Mm-hmm. And then so she got on social media. All the imams and all the masjids in my city, they all fake. They don't help a sister out. They don't protect our Muslim women. Why you think us Muslim women don't trust your brothers or whatever? And you remember what I'm talking about. Other sisters and brothers had to get on her like, wait a minute, sister. I'm part of this community, such and such, such. Reach out to this person and whatever. And then they was going back and forth, and that's when the information came out about how she got married, the whole situation, how the whole situation was. And so but on social media, people ain't looking at them details. They just like all the drama.
They love the drama.
Yeah, the Muslims, they foul, man. Look, this dude beating up her, his Muslim wife, and ain't nobody helping her. Here, she just went and got herself an eggplant straight off the street, put a kufi on the eggplant, and brought it home. And then the eggplant started beating her up. And now it's the whole Muslim community for every imam in the city is fake because they won't help get the eggplant out of her house.
SubhanAllah. You better make some eggplant parmesan with that or something. But yeah, so, I'm saying I'm talking about the ummah. We got to stop playing, taking this deen as a joke. Yeah. Allah mentions that, we taking this as a joke. And we need to stop. This is no joke. You need to fear Allah. Mm-hmm. When you get married, those ayats include that. It tells you to attaqullah, right? It tells you to fear Allah. But the marriage is, I don't see the fear. I don't see where the person is taking the time, to make sure that every T is crossed, every I is dotted, making sure everybody's rights are being, fulfilled. that the marriage is an actual marriage, that y'all come together for the pleasure of Allah and not just for your pleasure and lowly desires. Because a lot of time that's what it be. And people defend that. Well, I could do that. It's better than committing zina. But Allah gave us ways of handling that. Mm-hmm. And we thinking, or we know better than Allah does. Allah says to fast. Fast. So you saying Allah don't know his creation, that it doesn't work? And you say, well, it don't work for me. Did you try? Did you try hard enough during, Ramadan? You have to fast. So what you going to say? I can't. It's too hard. Mm-hmm. If you make the effort, you can do that. Because it distinguishes that desire when you fast. Right?
I can say
SubhanAllah.
that over the 25 or 30 years that I've been Muslim, every marriage that I can think about right now, that I can remember, where there was some deception in the beginning, mm-hmm. whether they fired the wali or the wakil because he hesitated or whatever the situation. Every situation that I know about, when they got into the marriage, somebody regretted it. Mm-hmm. It's usually the woman that regrets it. Mm-hmm. There always something came out mm-hmm. that the person wish or regret marrying that person. Mm-hmm. And very rarely do they go back to the ones who, tried to warn them or whatever, whether it be the other sisters or the imam or the wali or whoever. Very rarely do they go back and say, you was right. Mm-hmm. Very rarely. Right. But every situation that I could think of, I'm going to my mind right now, every one that I can think of, it usually turned out disastrous. I always tell a story about a sister who caught a major disease, marrying a dude who, this sister she wasn't Muslim. She was fornicating with him. He was fornicating with her. Mm-hmm. Almost like your situation. Mm-hmm. She took Shahada and was serious about her deen. Mm-hmm. But she was dealing with this dude for so long that, he knew how to get at her. Mm-hmm. This dude would always, we would set a wedding date. And I looked at him the first time. When me and the sisters meeting the brother, well, she been knowing, but I'm her wali. She's introducing me to the brother. The way they would call it swag now, I don't know what I call it. Just looking at him, I was like, in my mind, I said, this nigga a player. Mm-hmm. Right? I said to myself, I'm like, all right, alhamdulillah. And so he was older than me. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, basically, yeah, we're going to do it like this, whatever. I'm like, and I was like, so you just want me to rubber stamp your stuff, huh? Right? It's like, all right. And so I'm like, man, he's already involved with her, whatever. She wants to marry him. He wants to marry her, allegedly. I'm not stopping it. They're already dealing with each other. Let's do it. Let's do it right now, if possible. Right. No, we're going to do it kind of right. We're going to do it on this day. Mm-hmm. The day will come, mm-hmm. and he will pull out. Mm. I said, okay, set another date. Mm-hmm. And at one time, she was like, you can't come over my house no more. I'm trying to do this right. Right. Let's wait till after we get married. He like, oh, no, come on, let me, And then she would always let him in. And she would call me, tell me, you're going to be mad at me, but he came over and I let him in. Mm-hmm. Let me speak to him. Right? Whatever. Mm-hmm. You know how it is. I just got weak, man. So why don't you just get married, man? What's the problem? Nobody stopping you from getting married. Mm-hmm. Right? And so they set a date the second time. And he pulled out. Third time happened. I said, you know what? After the second time, I said, if he pulls back a third time, I'm taking back my permission. You marry somebody else. She was like, all right, I'm be strong. I'm riding with you. Right? He pulled out that third time. I was like, all right, you can't marry him. Marry somebody else. He got at her. I didn't even hear that I was fired. Right. I heard about the wedding.
Kick to the curb.
Because you already know the story. You heard it a million times. But the sister was a CO. Mm-hmm. And I used to go into her jail to give classes and stuff. Right. And when she heard that I was coming in, she would usually come down, I think, to the gym or wherever we used to have the classes and stuff at. But the chaplain there was telling me that, sister such and such ain't been to work for a long time. Like, why? And she was like, you talk to her. Right? She didn't want to tell me. When she came back to work, And chaplain called her. Ma'am Naima's here. She came down, and she was like, I know you heard I got married. I was like, yeah, you did what got at you, weakling, right? Whatever. Then she told me about the diseases and how she'd have to be out of the work and all kind of stuff. I said, this is amazing. You was fornicating with this guy all before you became Muslim, and Allah protected you from those diseases for whatever reason. Now you know better, and you kept letting them in, and then for whatever reason, Allah took back His protection from you, and gave you all of that stuff.
Wow.
After you got married,
right? After you,
because they went to the immigrant community. They went where nobody knew them and whatever like that.
That's what they do.
And you know, this is before social media,
right? So
you know, you had to go somewhere. So they went to immigrant community where nobody knew them, whatever. You know, they had their wedding there, whatever. I guess somebody else. I don't know how they got around the Wali situation. Maybe one of them became the Wali, but they went around and did it. And then that's when she got exposed to all that stuff and all the stuff that he was into. Excuse me, he was into. And to my mind, every time I think of this story, I was like, physically, nothing changed.
Right.
They were sleeping together before she became Muslim, wasn't married. She became Muslim, and they were still sleeping together. But then, at whatever point Allah said, you know, my protection is off of this. Whatever happened, happened.
SubhanAllah. But you want to read it from there or around here?
Read it from there.
What are your thoughts on people getting married to fix their bad and poor or haram acts? Is that the way we should enter into marriage, hoping that the person will save them or make them get on their deen?
Fixing their haram acts. When you say that, the first thing that comes to mind was a situation where a brother and sister, if you saw them, you would think that they was married. They wasn't like, they're from the hood, but they wasn't hood. You know, they was well kept. They both had nice jobs. They had children together, living together in the same house. You wouldn't even ask, are y'all married? Because they was living like they was a stable family. Right. You know. That's Muslim, and you just naturally, you would not ask them, hey, y'all married? Because they wasn't living like that. They was living like they was married. And their kids was, I don't remember the ages, but they was like about 10-ish, and they was together all that time. They didn't have kids with other people. They had those kids together. Right. And so they came to the office. It was like, we want to get married. We're like, ain't you already married? No, we ain't never did it right.
SubhanAllah.
And she was a new Muslim. She had just became Muslim. So she didn't know a lot about the deen. And he wasn't like the gung-ho type, going to every class type of Muslim either. He knew his basics and stuff. Right. And so, cool, we'll make it happen. So we had some counseling sessions. And, you know, I got to be honest. She didn't know about the whole polygyny part. So I mentioned that. She was like you, him? She did like this. and so I said, I'm sorry, I gotta be honest. You know, whatever. She gotta know, right? Right. You may not want to do it, but you know, she gotta know that it's there. You know, right? And so she got like, I thought I messed up their thing, and I was feeling kind of bad because they've been together all this time, and she was not feeling that polygyny stuff. And so he was like, don't worry about it, baby. I got you. We talk about it later. Right. Alhamdulillah, whatever he told her, by the time they came to the next meeting, she was cool. Right. Right, whatever. Alhamdulillah, they got married. Both their families came out. The masjid was nice. And a few months later, because they were soulmates. That's the term they used with me. And they came back to me to get, because then they got married legally as well. Right. And so they need me to sign off on their license or whatever. Right. And so he came back to me several months, maybe even a year after that. It was like, man, she was my soulmate, but I don't know how long I can do this. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I mean, and Allah manifested what I told them in one of those counseling sessions. I said, see, right now, you're not married. Shaitan is happy with your situation. because you're doing the haram. Every time you make love, every time you're alone together, it's more sins against you, and there's more chance you give a shaitan some company in the hellfire. But once y'all get married and y'all do this, shaitan is not going to leave your situation alone. He's going to try to turn y'all against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said it in passing. I just, for their situation, I didn't really go into depth about it and quote hadith or anything like that.
Right.
I was just saying for them to be mindful of this.
Mm-hmm.
When he came to me and said all that, all right, do you remember what I told you? I was just as shocked as he was.
Mm-hmm.
I said, remember I told you that shaitan was going to look at you both like y'all flipped on him, and he's going to take y'all as an enemy and attack y'all? Y'all was soulmates. All that time y'all wasn't married. Now you don't know if you can deal with her. That shaitan mess with y'all. Y'all both the same people.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get shaitan out of that. Y'all both the same people.
SubhanAllah. Wow. Somebody else said something I didn't get down.
Oh, she said, maybe living together, having sex, doing drug parties. Oh, the ratchet stuff. That stuff usually don't work. From my experience, a lot of people that's doing the haram stuff, they not only addicted to the sex, they addicted to haram. Mm-hmm. Like halal is boring for them. Mm-hmm. So you try to, okay, we was doing the haram stuff, so okay, let's do it married, let's do it right. One of them usually is like, this is corny.
Right?
Because they're addicted to the haram. That's why I always think, if loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right. That old school song. Because a lot of us, that's our mentality. Like, just for some reason, doing it the wrong way. Doing it where it's real sinful. That's what adds the spice to their relationship.
And another song came up to my mind.
What's that?
Me and Mrs. Jones.
Me and Mrs. Jones.
Remember?
Yeah.
Flaunting Zinat.
Yeah,
Me and Mrs. Jones,
mm-hmm,
right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we've been indoctrinated, these type of relationships. Indoctrinated.
Yeah. Don't have him getting on you. I don't know if she's still listening.
But these type of relationships,
mm-hmm.
And it's harmful to us. It's harmful to our situation. And even now, things is like more fitna mm-hmm. is added to the sauce. But we shouldn't. One thing I want to leave the audience with is mm-hmm. don't lose hope. You understand? Even though it looks bad, don't lose hope. This is a test for us to strengthen ourselves, mm-hmm. Get right with the law, get connected to the Quran more, because mm-hmm. it seems like we're getting away from it and we don't know what to do, but have some kind of connection, because you will feel like, what do I do? I feel lost. This is not for me. This DEEN, which it is. It's the cure of all things. But how are you able to take the medicine if you don't accept it? If you don't, open up the Quran and read it for it to apply to your life? We have to apply it to our life. Even right. The situations that are going on now. It's not hard. It's just we live in a time there's a lot of bullying going on and, peer pressure mm-hmm. from society about how your stance is supposed to be. And if you take a stance, you either on the wrong side or the right side. The wrong side, you're hating, you're promoting hate, you're promoting transphobia, all these terms that they say that you commit. And it's not that. You trying to hold the book and the sunnah. That's right. All. Like I say all the time. You have the right to do what you want to do. If that's your choice to live a certain way, don't stuff that down my throat to make me accept that.
Right.
You understand? I'm not condoning it. Don't accept. That's you. We all have free will to do whatever we please, right?
Mm-hmm.
Allah gave us that. Each and every one of us.
No.
Some of us choose to worship Allah. Some of us choose to be ungrateful to Allah. Some of us choose to mix up, the both, right?
Right.
But we have to stand on truth. Allah, He mandated and He said what's right and what's wrong in the book. It's clear. It's clear. And for us to change it or try to make it fit into the, way that society at large want us to be, that's wrong. You got to stand on truth. Even if you by yourself, you got to speak it.
Right.
You got to live it. And it's hard for some people because, like I said, this is a very sensitive topic because these are children. You got Muslims that have children that are gay, lesbian, transgender, all this stuff. They don't want you talking about their children. Nobody. They don't want you pointing that out. That's their child. That's who I, gave birth to. That's who I carried in my stomach. And you saying something about their lifestyle, that's my child. But your child is living a life that is not approved by Allah. So what's more important? Speaking the truth or denying the truth and not speaking to your child and letting them know what's up? I'm not saying you're not going to love your child, but you have to speak the truth. You got to stand on truth, even if it's against yourself. Allah tells us that.
No.
SubhanAllah.
Mm-hmm.
So, with this show, even though, he was asking me questions, we were looking to give some advice, some sincere advice. Not everybody went down this road as far as, finding the deen. Some of us were born into Islam. We got children that are born into Islam and don't want to practice later on, and then they find their way back. So some of y'all, it fits in that boat. You were Muslim growing up, then you decided that's not for you for whatever reason, and then you want to come back to the deen. But some of us make it hard for people to want to come back to the deen or want to be part of the deen because we make it, we make it bitter. Like they make the deen like a bitter pill. And it's not harsh. It's beautiful. It's soft, but we make it like it's, and it's not like that at all. And we make marriage like that. People make marriage like it's, like, I don't want to get married. You got Muslims that, I don't want to get married. I ain't trying to do that no more. Because people take advantage, especially if you don't have a lot of knowledge. You have brothers make you feel like you got to marry him or you ain't going to Jannah. You going to hell if you don't marry me. Like, I'm serious. Like, they make and the sister may be sincere with her deen and she don't want to, make Allah angry. So she's like, I'm going to marry this brother because this way I safeguard myself. He just using you. He just playing you.
I don't even understand that because my mind is wired differently. Like, for me, if a woman is not interested in me, doesn't like me, ain't feeling me, that's a turn off for me.
Right.
This way I think.
Right.
Like if I step to a sister, she's not interested in me, that's a turn off. Like in my mind, it's like, okay, you don't want me, I don't want you either. But brothers be like, oh, you not interested? Come on, sister. Like, why don't you want me? I want you. Come on. Please.
And then if he do marry her, and you do have brothers that marry sisters and say they get married, he don't want to teach her anything. He want to keep her dumb.
Yeah.
He dummy stuff down. He don't want to. He don't want her to elevate, and that's oppression. So when somebody say that Muslim sisters are oppressed, yes, they are oppressed because their husbands oppress them, but not teaching them the right things. Because they know if she has that knowledge, she can stand up for herself. If he says certain things or do certain things, she can question it. It's like, wait a minute. We're not, as Muslims, we supposed to be doing X, Y, Z. Why are you doing that, the other thing or whatever? You understand? And so some brothers don't like to be questioned. They feel that they're above questioning.
And a lot of times sisters say they want a brother that has knowledge and wants to teach them, but they don't really want to be taught. Because you married a sister, then all of a sudden, it's never a good time to have class. Don't teach me this way, teach me that way. Or, it's always an excuse.
SubhanAllah. So, alhamdulillah.
I had other questions, but alhamdulillah, we've been on long enough.
Yeah, mashallah. Yeah. Maybe next time we can spread it around. Inshallah. But I enjoyed that. It wasn't too bad.
What you think I'm gonna ask personal questions? Like what color what color underwear you had on when we got married?
No.
I'm not asking those stupid questions like that.
No. I know you wouldn't ask me that, mashallah.
Alhamdulillah. One question.
What? What's the question? What question do you have?
As a married woman and having been married before to other than me, if there was one thing, one mistake you made that you learned from, what was that mistake, and what would you do different?
Learn more of my deen. Learn more about Allah and His Messenger. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's what I would have. That's what I would have done over. Learn, a little more than what I've known. So if I was to do that, I think my situation would have been different. As far as I probably wouldn't have married the brother. Mm-hmm. Well, wasn't one, but you understand what I'm saying? I wouldn't have found myself in a situation. And by the way, you was about to say something about how we got married. I proposed to you. Remember?
Yeah, I remember.
So, sisters, if you want us to propose to the brother, you can. You ain't got to wait for him to ask through the wali. You can ask him. And it wasn't just me and him. We had a third party there. But if you want to marry a brother, and in that time he was married already, and his wife was there at the time that he was married to, was there when I asked. He like, what? Really? Yeah, we'd already talked prior to this. It wasn't like I just dropped it. Like, I want to marry your husband. To her. Right. Yeah. It ain't like I just dropped it there. It was already discussed.
Right.
And your reaction to it was priceless, because you was like, what?
I ain't married me. I'm the brokest brother on the East Coast. You gonna marry me? See, it wasn't like nowadays, where, back then, being married to more than one woman was an honor. Like, first of all, I wanted to say, before you asked me that, I didn't look down on you because you asked to marry me. I was more or less like honored or flabbergasted, right?
Right.
So I didn't, like a lot of sisters be like, oh, I'm not stooping down to that level. I didn't look down on her or any kind of way like that. I was, like I said, I was honored. And I responded that way because Muslims were operating at a higher level then. You didn't marry more than one woman if you couldn't afford her.
Right.
I mean, there was no conversation.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so, I can't afford that.
And what was my response?
So you said, I could take care of myself. I'm not marrying you. I don't want to marry you for your money or anything like that. I can take care of myself. I just want you to teach me my deen.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was my motivation to marrying you. Wasn't because I had money. I had a job, had my own place and everything, and I just felt that I needed that component. I didn't have that component. Right. So by marrying, that was the condition of marrying me, was to teach me that. And it's,
even then, it wasn't real for me. In my mind, I was like, nah, it ain't gonna happen because I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
Like in my mind, like financially, no, I couldn't do it. You know what was the battery in my back for that? I went and told Imam Siraj. And I said, you remember, sister, that when you told me, she want to marry me. You think I should do it? You know what he said?
What he said?
Well, you already know because you know the story. But he said, SubhanAllah, that's amazing. I just had a dream, and you all were in it, some other people in it, and you two were married.
Alhamdulillah.
So I was like, for real? Like, yeah. Some other stuff having a conversation. I said, should I do it? He said, yeah, I think you should do it. Whatever. The Imam said it. Let's do it.
Right.
So, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So, mashallah. And I'd like to mention that the Prophet's first wife, Khadija, proposed.
Right.
Through a third party. She proposed.
Right.
So it's not stooping. It's not, lowering your standards. If you want something, you go after it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not a reflection on you. It's good. You are confident about yourself. Even if the person turn you down, if you want something, you go after it. You don't take no as a shot down or, something that's wrong with you. If you had said, "No, I ain't doing that," that's your loss.
Yeah.
You know, I probably would have married somebody else. But
I know a good thing when I see it. I would. But the deep thing about it is that's a sunnah.
Right. Right.
Many women propose to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Many women proposed to him, right? Mm-hmm. He didn't say, "Astaghfirullah, sister, you shouldn't be proposing. Wait for me to propose to you." Mm-hmm. Let's go back to our basic Islam. What is a sunnah?
Right.
Anything the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did, said, or approved of.
Right.
And anything that was done in his presence or with his knowledge, if he didn't make inkar or speak against it, that is his approval.
Exactly.
So, being that these women approached him for marriage, even the ones that he turned down and refused, that is a
stamp of approval that was okay.
Yeah, it's a tacit approval. Thereby, it is a sunnah for women to approach a man who they want to marry for marriage.
Right. MashaAllah. Yeah. So, alhamdulillah. We need to get back to marriage. We need to get back to family. We need to get back to communities. That's what, that's another whole show. But we need to get back to that. Like, look at your family structure. Look at the structure of family. Like, who are your children going to marry? You know, with all that that's going on. You know, you can't condone something that Allah has explicitly, condemned, made haram. He condemned homosexuality.
You keep bringing up this homosexuality.
Because that's all that is being fed to us and kept pushing down our throats. And then you have some Muslims that's trying to co-sign to that, saying some stupid crap. Well, as long as you don't act on it, it's all right. It's not sinful. But if you act on it, then it's sinful. Where do you get that message from? Where do you get that mess from? Prophet Lut's wife didn't act on anything and got punished because of them.
Yeah.
And that surah, that story of Lut is not about hospitality. I've heard that. That's what they try to say, that it's about how you treat your guests. That's not what it was about. It was about how that way of life was not approved of. And because they want to insist on it, Allah punished those people. Mm-hmm. So even now, we people engage in certain things, but don't try to make it halal or it's okay. It's not. You're sinful. Point blank. Right. Some of us delve in drugs and alcohol. It's a sin. You're hurting your body. You're going against the laws of the Sharia, right? Yeah. So let's not try to make excuses for things that we know clearly that is haram. I don't care who's practicing it. And get out your feelings. That's what we got to do. Get out your feelings and call a spade a spade. And try to make more, give more dawah to our families, like you had mentioned that ayat. Save yourselves and your family from the fire. Right. You know that it's not correct, so now you got to teach your children. Now, if they want to grow up and live that way, you ask Allah to forgive you and say, Allah, I did my best. And just leave it to Him. Right. But don't lose hope. That's what I want to tell y'all. Don't lose hope. MashaAllah.
We thank y'all for joining us. Sorry for being away from y'all so long. Inshallah, life be catching up. I'm not one of those imams who is only an imam. I got work for a living and I got big family, so we be busy. I apologize. Inshallah.
So
close out.
Alhamdulillah. So with that being said, I want to thank everyone for listening and joining in. And inshallah, I hope that it was beneficial. And anything wrong that came from us is from ourselves, and what was good came from Allah. So subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shukran for listening. See you next week, inshallah.